What's up, and welcome back to another episode of Gizmo Slip Tech. Today we're unboxing and reviewing in detail. We've compiled all the benchmarks now. We're going to go through all of the general stuff for the Legion 9i now, all the pros and cons, the weight, flex test, keyboard, trackpad, removing the bottom, upgradability, ports, speaker, thermal analysis and testing. We still have to do that, I guess. There's a couple things we're actually going to be testing today, but mostly it's going to be evaluating it in a general final review form, and this should be edited down into the final review whenever that's ready. So just making sure the live stream is good, then we'll go ahead and get into the beginning here and compare with the other laptops. Rocky is being a crazy boy and climbing right on top of the Legion 9i box. Are you gonna get up there, buddy? Oh my gosh. Okay, all right, so this is the outer box that the Legion 9i comes in. We're going to be unboxing it fully, but before we do that, we are going to hop into a comparison and quickly go over what this Legion 9i has for its specs. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be gone over here. So, and we've got 6 competitors that we're gonna briefly compare the Legion 9i with, that if you're after an 18-inch laptop, you might want to consider as well. So it looks like, just making sure the live stream is good. Okay. The cat is interested in the Lenovo. That's how good the Lenovo is. LOL. I bought an Alienware 18 Area 51 with a 5080. Been super happy with it so far. Okay, that's good to hear. All right, so it looks like the stream is good. Let's continue on. All right, so this is the Legion 9i. You can only equip it with the Intel Core Ultra 9 275HX. I believe you can get a 5080 or a 5090. And 64 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of RAM, or 192 gigs of RAM. If you go up to the higher RAM speed, I believe the speed of the RAM goes down even further. And notice how we don't have the full 6400 on this DDR5 RAM. Out of the box, it comes with a 1 terabyte, but ours comes with a 2 terabyte Gen 5 SSD. We're going to go over all of the benchmarks here at the end and compare them against all the other laptops I've tested this year. It has a UHD plus 240 Hertz, so 4K plus, and a Full HD plus 440 Hertz dual native. And it is also 3D enableable, all right? So you can switch this into a 3D screen if you have compatible 3D content. I've got a frog in my throat. I'm gonna clear my voice really quick. Let's see here, can I mute this? Okay. All right. So let's talk top 6 other competitors you might want to consider for 18 inchers. First, we have the MSI Titan 18HX AI. This has the slightly upgraded Intel Core Ultra 9 285HX. I'm gonna wait for this siren to go by before I continue. We'll restart here on the Titan. Okay, so this is the MSI Titan 18HX. You've got the Intel Core Ultra 9 285HX. It's a slightly upclocked version of the same processor. Same cores and threads as the 275HX. RTX 5090, you can do up to 96 gigs of RAM. So basically 248 gig sticks in this. You cannot go to the full 4 SODIMM slots. They actually removed the 4 SODIMM slot support. So you do have a lot of SSD support in here, though. You have a haptic feedback trackpad, which just gets really mixed feedback. Some people love it, some people hate it. I think MSI needs to get the drivers figured out on it some more. But when it works well, it was working well for me when I tested one. But it's a unique trackpad. Some people are going to love it, hate it, but it looks really cool at the very least. Now, the Titan has excellent cooling, vapor chamber in here. The main downside, I think, is that it's only a 4K 120 Hertz mini LED, and the mini LED is the same technology from a couple years ago, so it's got a lot of bloom on it. And I have seen this in person. I've tested the Raider 18, which has the same display. And yeah, the display is one of the worst 18-inch laptops for Bloom, but it's really vibrant and bright. So if you're after a bright, vibrant mini LED that's 4K plus, this is one of the only versions that have a mini LED 4K plus. But it's only 120 hertz, so not as good for esports. And in my opinion, there's a bit more ghosting on it as well in terms of like display input lag. So not as great for esports gamers just in general. Razer Blade 18 is a strong competitor to the Legion 9i. It features pretty much an identical display. Now you can get the UHD plus 240 hertz, full HD 440 hertz, which is very, very similar to what we get in the Legion 9i. You get a thermal bump on the bottom of the Blade 18 this year that increases the wattage capability of the Blade 18. And you also have a number pad this year as well. So there's some nice upgrades on the Blade 18. You still get the crappy arrow keys though. So I really hate the arrow keys. I love my Blade 18 overall still. And I have not had any major problems except for NVIDIA Optimus causing flicker on Windows. So I can't use NVIDIA Optimus. I just have to run it in NVIDIA GPU mode all the time. But other than that, the Blade 18 has functioned really, really well for me. Yeah. Strix Scar 18. This guy is the coolest looking 18-inch laptop, hands down. I've done detailed review on this. I've used it for about 2 months as my main laptop. This year, the 5080 version. And all in all, it's really cool. You got the 360-degree lighting all the way around, a anime matrix on the back with an RGB logo, and RGB keyboard and mouse, and toolless bottom for upgradability. But the upgradability is not nearly as good as the Legion 9i in terms of the number of slots and the RAM upgradability. So there's pros and cons here. It's the cool factor and the ease of upgradability is really good. The total upgradability though is not as good. Performance on this one also, we noticed worst 1% lows and maybe slightly lower FPS compared to other products, but not like in a way that's going to be super noticeable, I don't think. At least in the tests I've done. That could also be related to early drivers, but also maybe the slower DDR5 5600 RAM that could have been 6400 RAM. I don't know why they didn't go to 6400 on this, but yeah, they didn't. Now the display on the Scar 18 is definitely the most special aspect of the Scar 18. It's got a 1100 nits mini LED with 100% DCI-P3, and it's got 2000 dimming zones, which means there's very little bloom on here, and there's no reflectivity to it either. So it's very, like, not glossy, not a mirror, and it looks really, really good. It's probably the best 18-inch display in terms of visuals, plus it's QHD+, which is, like, I think the ideal resolution for an 18-inch laptop. So I would say the Scar 18 and the Legion 9i and probably the Blade 18 are the top 3 18-inchers this year, probably. Maybe not in terms of raw performance, but in terms of niceness and cool factor, and also total quality of product. Yeah. In terms of like other options though, I'd say these are more secondary options. The Gigabyte Aorus Master 18. I'm not going to go over this too much, but it's a QHD plus 240 hertz mini LED. I have been hands-on with this guy, but I did not get to test it in detail. Overall, this one seems like it has potential, but the benchmarks I've seen on it were lackluster compared to the competition. So unless this one's on a big discount, I'm probably not going to recommend it. Acer Predator Helios 18. Intel Core Ultra 9, very similar specs, but it's a UHD plus 120 hertz mini LED. And this one had some nice upgrades. Almost no reviews of this laptop have been made. And it's very worrying that there's been very few laptop reviews made. So very hesitant to recommend it. I did get hands-on with this one at CES last year. It certainly has potential to be a really good laptop. And I would probably only consider it if you buy it from a place where you can return it in case it turns out to be really not good or you have major issues. MSI Raider A18HX. Now this one is the 9955HX 3D With the 5090, one of the only options you have on the market to get a 5090 with the HX3D. This and the XMG Neo 16 have the two options that you can get the HX3D and the 5090 put together. This one's basically been sold out all year. You're gonna have to wait in line if you're gonna get this one. At least that's what historically has been the case. Overall, this should be a solid option with, again, the same UHD plus 120 Hz mini LED screen that's not as good because it has a lot of bloom on it. So I can probably recommend this one, but again, I'd probably buy it from a place I could return it in case you run into some major issues. No advanced Optimus or G-Sync on the Titan or the MSI Raider. That's a kind of a major con here. But in terms of the best performance in games, 18-inch laptop probably is going to go to the MSI Raider A18 due to the 9955HX CPU in it. Just in terms of raw FPS you're going to be outputting, especially for esports games. But then you have this 120 Hz mini LED display that you're like, okay, so I can get 500 frames per second or maybe 700 frames per second in Counter-Strike at 4K, but I can only see 120 Hertz refresh rate of my 700 frames that I'm generating. So you probably would want to get an external display that's a high refresh rate display if you're after like the ultra high FPS. Gameplay performance. So yeah, and I mean in that case you might as well just get like the Neo 16 or a competitor to the Neo with the 9955HX 3D. I don't know. That's certainly an option. Anyway, so going back to Legion 9i, the unique aspects of the Legion 9i are, of course, the 3D-enabled display, the really high-quality build quality, the upgradability, the cool RGB effects, though they're not that crazy compared to some of the other ones, the carbon fiber lid, and a really high-quality keyboard with really good overall performance. And I've got a full list of pros and cons for you at the end of this live stream, so I hope you stick around to see all of that. Am I going to do a full review on the Predator Helios 16S? I hope at some point I can. Acer has not been sending me review units though. Dwight says, I regret buying the SAR 16 5080. It heats too much. Also now fan coil whine noise becomes loud. Interesting. Haven't seen any fan coil noise. I wonder what year. You got 20. You had to be a 2025 version. I haven't heard of anyone getting coil whine in a 2025 version. That's interesting. Well, I'm sorry that it did not turn out to be an amazing purchase for you. So, okay. Let's go next. Let's do the unboxing and initial impressions, and then we'll shoot some B-roll, and then we'll move into the rest of these little tests that we're going to do. So this is the external box that the Legion 9i came in. And I'll just flip this around for you so you can see it real quick. Ay, ay, ay. Such a huge box. Anyway, so we'll lay this guy down. And open it up. When you open it up, the Legion box is inside. You can take this guy out. I was tempted to just use this box, but yeah. Now, in the right side here, we have our power cable. Sadly, this cable is not compatible with outlets in Thailand, so I have to use another power cable. But you can see it's a pretty decent length one that it comes with. But yeah, these prongs on it are not compatible. So this cable is about 5 feet long. Oh, you can't see anything with that camera right now. LOL, the box is completely blocking that camera. It's a huge box. Let's just get this put away and grab the power adapter out so I can get this box down and out of the way visually. All right. Voila. And there we go. Okay, and here is the power brick. All right, comes packaged like this. Voila. And let's just go ahead and pull this out so you can see the information on this power brick. You can see it's made by Lenovo. It's a 400-watt power brick. And the power plug-in cable is reversible. It goes in the back of the Legion 9i. And this brick has a little Velcro thing on it. And if we extend out the cable, you can see that with the power cable and the full length, it's about 5 feet long. So combining them to the two links together, you get about 10 feet of total reach, which I think is good. That's a good amount of reach. I will say that this brick, for a 400 watt, is very reasonably sized. It's not, I wouldn't say it's small. It's a pretty large and heavy power brick, but it's, for its size, that's the main thing, it's quite good. So, power brick, let's see here. We're downgrading to the smaller box now. All right, so we can open this guy up. Dun, dun, dun. And then you can see it says, "Reach your impossible" inside. And we got a nice little lift tab here to lift the laptop on out. We do have some papers to take a look at. So let's zoom in on these guys. Legion 9i 18-inch Gen 10. Getting started. Let me just make sure that we're in focus here. Looks like it's in Chinese here. Giving you a brief overview of the ports. And here's some key shortcuts. You got HDMI on the back and the power is on the back. That's interesting. You've got your key shortcuts here. FN plus Q changes your fan profile mode. FN plus R will switch you between 75 Hertz, 240, or 440, depending on if you're in the 4K or the full HD display mode, which you have to switch inside of the BIOS. FN plus L will, I think, do something. I'm guessing it's Legion lighting, or maybe the Legion application, I don't know. FN plus arrow key up and down turns the brightness of the keyboard up and down, and FN plus spacebar should shift between the different versions of the lighting modes. And there's a full user guide thing there if you want to check that out. I don't know. All right, looks like we have some safety information. Not really much in here as far as papers, so that's it. Okay, so we'll slide this on over. Take this out. Voila. There's that carbon fiber lid. It's a very nice look, I think. Nothing like a little bit of spit shine to get rid of any blemishes. But yeah, I really do like the look of the laptop. And it does have a little bit of a texture when you're bringing your fingers across it that I think is quite nice. Overall, I do like the look of this laptop. One thing I'll say is in the hands, it feels really solid. Like it is a very solid feeling laptop, even though it doesn't feel quite as like insanely like a weapon as much. It just kind of feels bulky in the hands a little bit, but it still feels really solidly built. Like when I hold the Blade 18, it feels a bit more like a weapon because of how tightly designed everything is. Like this is just a little bit more bulky, but it's still just really high quality. And one of my favorite aspects of the build on this is how insanely rigid the hinge is. So, like, it slides the laptop back. Do you see that? Like, the laptop itself slid. It's very common when I open and close this thing, the thing just moves around because the hinge is so stiff. And I don't know if you saw right there, but like, look at this hinge. Look at how stiff this hinge is. I put it there and it just stays, pretty much. Very, very little wobble to it. And I think that's a good thing. I think that indicates a really strongly designed hinge. So I really like the build and feel of this laptop, even if it is a bit of a bulkier build, I guess. You know, I would definitely describe it as like bulky and not like the slim focus machine, without a doubt. Like the Blade 18, I think it's a bit sleeker looking, a little sleeker designed, but this is still sleeker than something like the Titan or the Raider. And it's probably about the same as the Scar in terms of how sleek it looks. But it has so much functionality built into this thing. So like there's so much upgradability, and that's why I'm okay with it being a bit bulkier. All right, so let's go to just moving the power brick out of the way for a moment. Let's get our weight out of the way. All right. All right, can you see that? I'm doing it in grams. It's 3.76 kilograms. 3.762 kilograms. Let's see if I can slide it back a little bit more. 3.761. 63 now. Yeah. So, and then let's grab the power brick. $4,977. So that's with the US power cable. $4,977. All right. That's 8 pounds, 4.7 ounces. This is a heavy laptop, my friends. Beastly heavy laptop. And this is not even the maximum weight, because if you were to put full SSD and RAM upgrades in here, it would get even heavier. So, yep, definitely know that going into it. If you want something thinner and lighter, you can obviously go for something else. All right. So, let's do our B-roll. Yeah. Let's get some B-roll rolling. Okay. I need my power bank. Yee-hee. All right. But doop. Cool. All right, let's switch angles here. I want to scoot this over a little bit. It is such a monster. It is such a monster laptop. I'm going to take me off the screen for a moment. Such a monster laptop that my turntable was not doing it smoothly. It was not turning smoothly. So this logo will light up when we turn it on. I'll turn it on here in a moment. But I'm going to let it turn here for 2 shakes of a lamb's tail, and then I'll open it up, let it turn, and then we'll turn it on. I need this light. All right. There we go. And voila. Okay, so that's a lot better. Better fill light. Go and open her up now. Hopefully we can nice. Windows so low seemed to work quite well there. I want to go ahead and raise it up just a little bit. I love the Legion logo. I like that it's multi-tone, so you get like a 2 or 3 color light effect going through it. Everything's still loading up right now. Trying to get this to not show in the sides there, if I can. We'll let it do one more pass here, then we'll get some close-ups of the sides and the ports. There's a good shot. I really need to get a new turnstile, one that's very high quality motor so it keeps the laptop spinning at the right speed. We'll go ahead and turn the lights down and just let the natural RGB lights shine through for a moment. Can you turn off the closet light, please? And the bed light? Okay. Nice. Looks truly excellent. Looks like the screen might dim itself, though. I don't want that. All right, so I'd like to get some more glamorous B-roll shots using some of my RGB lights that I have here. So I'm gonna go ahead and set these. Set these down behind the laptop. It's a little bit too high for it. I'm trying to get an overview shot. As it spins here. Nice, that looks good. Now I'm gonna try to get one on the logo here. Very nice. Let's go for the keyboard shot. I really wish this could. I really wish the motor would be a more consistent motor on my turnstile. All right. Looks like an expensive commercial. I mean, that's kind of the goal. I want to make the laptop look as awesome as possible. I mean, quite frankly, it does. It is awesome, so. If I can make the laptops look cooler, more laptop manufacturers hopefully will send me more laptops, right? So that's kind of my thought process behind it. And it's more visually engaging for you guys, my audience, if the laptops look cool. Keeps getting stuck on my light, which is, oh. Not on my light, on my power bank. All right, so let's just see if we can get a full rotation here. I don't think I would quite call that a full rotation, but trying to get a good keyboard focused rotating shot, basically. None of this is really usable to me. My top-down camera is not being detected. I don't know why. Okay. We'll go a little more top down with my main B-roll camera here. That looks pretty dang cool. Rocky really wants to get up in this B-roll right now. He's not complaining. How are the thermals on the Legion 9i? The CPU can get really hot, but the GPU stays in a nice temperature. If you want the CPU to stay cooler, you're going to need to probably use custom mode to set the CPU to run at a cooler temperature. And the tricky part with that, is that you can't actually run it in custom mode right now. Custom mode appears to be bugged. And by bugged, what I mean is when we ran it in custom mode, what we saw was really inconsistent GPU performance. Like the GPU and CPU were only running like at 100 watts and 20 watts or something, you know? which is not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be running at full levels of performance. All right, so here's the shot I'm looking for right here. As it comes around, kablamo, keyboard, trackpad, everything's in focus. And it's turning at the right speed, so that's good. Looks fantastic. Notice how thick this display housing is. We'll have to get a close-up look at that. All right. Just get a few more shots here. Maybe I'll turn off the extra cam here. Or extra light, I mean. I think that's quite good. All right. Okay. All right, for now, I'm pretty happy with that. Let me get my lights turned back on and reposition everything. Okay. All right, very good. Let Rocky have his B-roll. He needs more subs. He does need more subs. If you guys want to follow Rocky's YouTube channel, I don't think I linked to it in the description, but I probably should. He's got like 350 subs or something. Him and Sky. All right. Very good. All right, it's time to, I believe it's time to go ahead and take this thing apart. I really want the top-down camera to work. I don't think I'll get it to work today, though, so we're gonna have to do this the old-fashioned way. With just take it apart with just my side camera. So first step to taking this thing apart, you need to shut it down. I have not looked up any tutorials on how to take this thing apart, so it's gonna be an adventure. Last laptop I took apart, the MacBook Pro, and the Zephyrus G14. Man, the MacBook Pro took me forever to get that thing apart. So hopefully this goes smoother than that. All right, looks like we have a small Phillips head screwdriver is all that's required for this. So that should be easier than average. I'm thinking this one. Does it fit? Yes. Easy peasy. All right, we'll see what kind of size screws we get coming out of here. So far, they've been the same size. They've been kind of sticky. I think the Loctite making the screws a little sticky. Loctite is a little glue thing that keeps the screws from getting loose over time. I can see just a little bit of it at the bottom of the screws. So far, coming out pretty dang easy, no problem, and they're all the same size so far. All right, is this a pop-up screw? No, no pop-up screw in any of the screws. We have 4 along the front. We have 3 along the middle, including 1 in the center. Here, I'm about to take that out. And then we have 4 along the back. So that means we have 11 screws in total. I don't think there's any hidden screws here. Notice how big the feet are here. It's very large feet. Intakes along the bottom here with the entire bottom bezel blocking the airflow. So that's a very distinct heat dissipation design, if I can point this out. So like in Jared's text review, he found that he got worse temperatures with the laptop cooler. I don't know if that's going to be the case for me. I haven't tested the laptop cooler that I have, but basically I think this is the reason why. This is designed to completely seal off the rear where all the hot air is directed out the back. No side vents here. So the idea is the air is brought in through here and then ejected out the back. And then, hopefully very little of the hot air is brought back into the system, which is a nice design. I like the design. Let's see how easy it is to get this thing to pop up. I kind of got in there for a moment, using my fingernail to kind of raise it. Trying to decide if I need to go in the bottom down here or up here at the top. I believe this is the RGB light bar, and I don't know if the RGB light bar comes up with it or not. So that's a good question. Let me see if I can get this started. Wow, it's really sealed really tightly. So I'm going to guess the RGB light bar stays in the bottom chassis. Ah, you can't see. This is really hard to do where you're in a position where you can see it. Let's see if I can rotate this around for you. Okay, so I'm in a nice wedge here. I guess I could use a second one now. It's not popping up at all. There we go. We got our first pop up, second pop. And it looks like the light bar stays down. Oh my. It's very tight. Which is, it's not a bad thing that it's tight. It's just makes you a little nervous. You don't want to break it. Don't want to break it, don't want to bend it. Obviously, that would not be good. This is hard to do. I'm all the way zoomed out. Let's just tilt this camera back and up. You're going to see a giant mess behind me, probably, whatever. Such is real life, right? Mm-hmm. All right, well, this is a really tough transition going from the edge of the light bar over to the back part. I think I'm going to try to wedge a pick right there and bring a second pick to insert down below. Wow. See, this front part feels like it can totally bend up independent of all the rest of the laptop, which makes me super nervous. I really don't want to break anything, obviously. Yikes. All right, it's time to do some double checking here. Legion 9i 18-inch bottom removal. Okay, they have a little video. Recommended.
Remove 11 screws. Use the non-metallic pry tool to unclip the cover around the upper edge.
Okay. So they recommend starting at the back, it looks like. All right. That makes sense.
Two suction cups to remove the bottom cover.
Interesting. Well, I got the front to come up, no problem. It's the back right now that's being a pain. So I got to figure out the right spot to wedge into the back. Let me see the camera angle. Okay. I'm going to try to go for this far corner over here. I'm in it. I'm in a little bit. Let's go with the second. So wedge it bigger. There we go. Using the double guitar pick action is the way I recommend approaching this, and do it from the back and then go to the front. Okay. Got it. That side is completely off. Let's get this side off now. I heard something snap back together, which always sucks. You're like, wait, we're supposed to be coming apart, not snapping back together. I got this one little part left, I think. Yeah, they recommend using a suction cup on this side. I think that is the right way to go. So, just a heads up there. I would not do it the way I just did it. Yeah, I got it off though. I don't think I damaged anything, so that's what matters. All right. Let's see here. Where's the stream? There it is. All right. Cool, bam. Okay, look at the upgradability on this guy. Let's start taking covers off and just check everything out. First, the general recommendation would be to reach in and remove reach in with a plastic tool, not metal. I'm trying to get a plastic tool free here. There we go. And remove the battery. This one's kind of hard to remove. It's really wedged in there. It's coming out though. There we go. Well, it unwedged and then it re-wedged right back inside. Wow, they made that really tight. Okay, so our battery right here is now out. Let me see if I can zoom in for you on that. It's very tight to get the battery piece out. Using this little sharp tool made it a lot easier than it would have been. Without that, it would have been almost impossible, I think. Impossible to use your fingers. Okay. Zooming out. Razavelli says, I have an MSI Raider 18HX and this thing is loud. Yeah, that's a loud one. I almost feel bad that I purchased it. I mean, I don't know why you'd feel bad necessarily. I mean, are you happy with it? Okay, let's take a look at the let's take a look at the overall. All right, so an overall examination of the internals. So to start with, we've got a 4-fan design. I did not realize there was 4 fans in here, but we got 1, 2, 3, 4 fans. Big vapor chamber cooler here in the middle. Looks like this fan blows air, takes air in through here. And does it blow air over this SSD and then over this RAM? I think so. All right, I believe this is a sticker. Let's see if we can take this up. Okay, so there's our sticker for our RAM. And yeah, it looks like the air comes out here and possibly over here. I have to, let me lift it up. Yeah, so it looks like it just goes out over the RAM. So the air comes in here and goes out over here. We have our 4 sodium slots right here. This is Samsung DDR5 5600 RAM. So it's not 6400. We unplugged the battery, so let's just go ahead and take a look at this RAM. So there's the RAM stick right there. PC5 5600 2RX8. So 32 gig stick. You can pause it if you need to take a detailed look at that. Let's plug it back in here. So you would stack an extra one here and here. It's interesting that you're using the bottom SODIMM slot B2 and then A1. Like if you look at this little guide, it says if there's one DIMM, use A2, which is this top one. If there's two DIMMs, use A2 and B2, which is this one. So A2 and B2. And then if you're using 4 DIMMs, use all 4. So and that has to do with the channels of memory. You want to make sure that you're using the correct channels in the right order for the motherboard. So make sure that if you upgrade this RAM, like if it only has 1 stick in it, put it into A2. If you want to use 2, use A2, B2. And then if you use all 4, use all 4 slots, obviously. Okay. Shabam. Let's get this SSD cover off. And is it just one? Yes, just one. You got your nice little heat pad right there. And this is a dun dun dun. This is a Gen 5 drive. Trying to find the brand on it. Samsung. A Samsung G5P, I'm pretty sure that means Gen 5, 2 terabyte. Product of China, which is interesting even though Samsung's a South Korean company. But they probably use Chinese manufacturing, I guess. All right, so pop this SSD back in. And we can put the cover back on. So make sure that you insert it the same way you had it. And that's making me really wonder how this was in here, because it is not fitting in a way that the screw will let it proceed in. Pretty sure it goes like that. And then this goes down into here. That or it goes out on top and then down. But either way, it's not letting it. Either way, the screw here no longer lines up. So, puts me in an awkward position. Like, it lines up worse if I put it inside, wedged down there. And if I put it right here, which is where I think it goes, it's still not in the right spot. Is this like spring loaded or something? I don't know. That middle is clearly designed to bend a little bit, you know, so I believe that's the correct way to do that. All right. Notice the speakers, giant speakers here. RGB light bar going around with no LED light strip at all. We've got a third fan, or I guess you could say a fourth fan, depending on, I would say fourth and then third and then the two main fans. Third fan looks like it intakes air and blows it over the whole system components here. We've got another cover over here. Let's take this cover off and see what we got going on underneath here. You have the Legion 7 9955 HX3D, and you undervolted 35 steps. That's a lot for a AMD CPU. That's like a full maximum possible undervolt. So under this cover, wow, 3 more full-size M.2 2280s here. Look at that beauty. These are all going to be Gen 4 drive slots, but 1, 2, 3, which means that you could put into up to 32 terabytes of SSD space with this laptop. You also have your Wi-Fi right here if you want to upgrade your Wi-Fi or swap it out. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Back when I was I still kind of am an SSD fanatic. I have 2 8-terabyte drives. So I have 16 terabytes in my own laptop. Though currently I'm only rocking 10 terabytes in the Zephyrus G16, so I don't have to swap out the drive that it came with. I've got 1 8-terabyte still in my Blade 18. Just swap my extra drive over. That has all of my footage on it for video editing. Makes it easy to switch laptops if I don't reinstall the operating system drive. As I'm switching between different review units regularly, so all I have to do is pop the laptops open and move one drive, and then I can pretty much switch the whole thing over, or my whole laptop computing experience over very quickly that way. Okay. Overall, I am really impressed with the internals. It's really tightly designed for what it is. We've got a 99 watt-hour battery here, the 4 SSD M.2s, 1 Gen 5 drive on the right, 3 PCIe Gen 4s on the left, 4 SODIMM slots for memory upgrade, a 4-fan design with vapor chamber cooling. I mean, it does not get much better than this, I don't think. That is amazing. So that's the internals of the Legion 9i. Let's go ahead and put it back together now. Can you remove the heatsink? We're not going to go that far. We're not going to go that far. We're gonna stop at where we're at right now, because removing the heatsink is another level, and if any of the putty or the PTM material gets messed up, I really don't want to have to. I don't have any extra on hand, so it would be a potentially huge mess. Okay, so there's 2 things we need to do before we start putting this cover back on. We need to reattach our memory sticker. This is probably important for the airflow, because this fan is blowing over these RAM slots. All right, so we want to make sure this is here. Then we also need to put our battery back connected again. So slide this down. And over. And back in. Excellent. There's beauty. Okay, I think everything else is good now. Let's go ahead and put it back together again. This uses PTM. This does not use liquid metal. You can see the PTM material actually kind of sitting out underneath the vapor chamber there. At least some of the foam. Okay, and so I'm not sure the best way to put this together again, but let's try to reposition the camera again this way a little bit. And I usually prefer to hug the laptop when I'm re-snapping everything together so I can get like a horizontal view to make sure that every latch is fully snug as I go around the laptop. Most reliable way to do that, in my experience, after opening and closing, I don't know how many laptops now, well over 100 different models. All right. We'll reposition the camera back over here. And it's time to redo all the screws. So one caution I will say is that this little metal rim around here is not that strong. And so it's pretty bendable. That's why they recommend using a suction cup here. So I would definitely recommend using a suction cup, because I noticed that it got bent just a little bit, and just using my fingers I was able to bend it right back to the original shape. But that's a cautionary tale of don't try to pry right here around this edge. It's important to use a suction cup when you get to this side. At least Lenovo made a dedicated video for it. I usually try to open the laptop before watching any instructions, just to see if it's an intuitive opening experience or not. And I just try to be careful not to force anything. And some of these laptops these days are really unintuitive, with multiple pieces you have to remove in an odd order in order to get it to come up, or you have to do it at a certain angle, then slide the, wedge it out or in or whatever. It's just generally good to check if you're unsure. But this video now will probably help a lot of you open this laptop up if you ever buy this laptop. So, okay, we're plugged back in. Let's see if we fried it. Dun, dun, dun. Yay. Okay, now let's go ahead and hop into the BIOS since we're right here. I'm pressing F2 to get into the BIOS. Let me put my tools away, and then I'll reposition the camera. One of my guitar picks went flying. All right. I'm going to lower the camera down. Not too low. All right. That reflective display is just super reflective. I'm going to move this light out of the way so it doesn't bounce so hard. My ring light. All right. Cool beans. This is the BIOS. So using just a regular mouse, the touchpad, Legion optimization enabled or disabled, and discrete graphics are checked. That's the basics you've got at the beginning. You can click more settings, and you can go to your configuration, and then general settings, and inside of here, we have wireless LAN, storage mode controller, Intel VMD controller, network boot, Intel virtualization, Intel VTD feature, BIOS backflash. If you want to reverse your BIOS version, you'll have to enable that, I believe. Hotkey mode, enable or disable. That's for the FN plus escape function to switch whether you want your top keys to be the secondary mode or the F1 through 12. Restore default overclocking, so if you overclock too high and Windows is not booting, you can fix that right there. Fast boot settings, disabled or enabled. Flip to start. When you open the lid, it'll turn on the laptop. I don't recommend it. You can set your internal refresh rate from 240 Hz to 440 Hz, and this will switch it to 4K to full HD. That's where you change that. Default lighting controller, application or firmware, or Windows dynamic lighting or firmware. And yeah, do application or firmware. Power management, battery level protection. So if you want to peak at, I believe, 80%, you can turn this on. Always on USB for charging your phone from the USB-A port. Enable or disable charging external devices when the system is in hibernate or power off state. So you can charge your phone and use your laptop as a giant battery bank if you have that enabled. Disable the inbuilt system. So you can do that. Oh, that's nice. So you could potentially do that instead of having to unplug that battery, which that battery was kind of tricky to unplug. So you could turn off the battery that way. Legion optimization for CPU. So that is probably what you have to check on if you want the Legion CPU checkbox for the CPU overclocking button. Undervolt protection, enable or disable if you want to be able to undervolt. You want to disable this if you want to be able to undervolt. Current excursion protection. I'm not sure what that is. CPU overclocking profile. There is a CPU overclocking profile 1 and 2. Interesting. I wonder what those do. Enhance memory. Interesting. Enable SAGV frequency switching. I'm not sure what this does. Maybe some kind of memory tuning. AC load line calibration. So this is a way to undervolt potentially out of the box. You can adjust this. I'm not sure the right value you'd want to set here to be able to undervolt it correctly, but you want to be careful. Basically, this is the equivalent of undervolting your CPU. GPU overclocking, enable or disable, maximum memory frequency, you can downclock it if you want. Turn your Atom cores on or off. Smart power, system will balance performance and battery life, disabled right now. Acoustic, sound, and sync. In balance mode or performance mode, system will enhance heavy loading apps performance. Interesting. Oh, interesting. So it's saying that if it's a loud game or application, it'll increase your fan noise because you won't hear the fan noise. If it's disabled, it will not, the loudness of your speakers will not affect your fan speed. That's such an interesting idea. Pretty innovative idea. I wonder how well it works. Security. You can set a password, an admin password. For boot, you can select your drive if you want to, like, say, install a second install of Windows or maybe Linux. You have to change your drive order. And then we'll hit exit, discarding changes. I don't think we changed anything that we want to keep. What's up, Duckman Duan? Hi. Welcome to the stream. All right. So, flex test, keyboard, trackpad. We already removed the bottom. We already talked about upgradability. It has tons of upgradability. So, flex test. Ah, really? This is the first time. This is the first time it hasn't recognized me. Windows Hello has done such a good job of recognizing me. I wonder what's up with that. Anyway. I have a question. I'm using the Blade 16 2023 top-end specs. Do you think, how long can it last? I would say just monitor your battery. You might want to replace the battery to prevent battery bloating issues every 2 to 3 years. And it'll probably last you between 5 to 10 years on average. And it should, in terms of gaming performance, it should last a really long time. Okay, so it's time to do our flex test. Starting in the bottom right, no flex, no flex. Very, very little flex, but pretty much no flex. No flex, no flex, no flex. Pretty much no flex, no flex. No flex, no flex. Very little flex. Just a little bit of flex. I wouldn't say very little, but just a little flex in the keyboard area. Overall, extremely rigid. One of the most rigid keyboard decks I've ever pressed on in my life. That is very impressive rigidity overall. Just a little bit of, tiny bit of flex right in this area, and that's about it. A little bit on the keyboard, because that's, it's acceptable. That's about what you should expect. So absolutely excellent in terms of keyboard flex, and like we talked about earlier, the hinge is incredibly stiff. Very difficult to move. Oftentimes you move the laptop when you move it back and forth. Very high quality hinge. I really like the hinge overall. Okay. Keyboard and trackpad. Let's talk about it. So let's get close, down and dirty with this keyboard. All right, so very nice backlight on the keyboard. When you press the FN key here, it switches your mode to make it easy to know which buttons are still active, including Q, R, L, and spacebar, and even the arrow keys in the top row. So I like that a lot. FN plus lock will switch the function of all of those secondary keys, so you don't have to press FN to be able to do your brightness, for example. It'll just work without having to press it, which is really nice. Okay, so starting on the left, FN lock key with a lock indicator. We also have a caps lock. We also have a caps lock indicator. Volume mute, volume down, up, mic mute, brightness down, up, screen mirroring or screen mode selection, airplane mode, which I'm glad it's away from the delete key. I'm annoyed at having to press. I enter airplane mode a lot on my Zephyrus G16 on accident when I'm pressing the delete key. The star mode thing is like a special function. You have your touchpad enable, disable. F11 is Smart Connect. F12 is your calculator button. Then we have a full-size number pad with home and page up, page down. It's not quite full-size, but it's basically very nicely sized. With a numpad lock indicator, pause, play, stop, reverse track, end track, and the delete key is right above the space key, which makes it easy. And there's an insert and a print screen dedicated button for taking screenshots. I really like all of these functionalities. It's so nice. The arrow keys are also super big and easy to hit. You can adjust the keyboard backlight brightness with the arrow keys. Copilot plus button, kind of useless. And then you have FN plus spacebar, and that'll change your color mode that you're using for your keyboard backlight. And I believe this cycles through the most recent 6 versions of your color options. So yeah, it's about 6 different options there. They have more in the Vantage software if you want to switch between more keyboard backlight options. In terms of the actual keyboard backlight, it's bright, it's vibrant, it looks good overall in my opinion, and it's one that it's worth using long term. Okay, so this is the trackpad. It's large, it's accurate, it clicks kind of soft, which some people probably would prefer a clickier click to it, but very easy to do 4-finger gestures or 3-finger gestures and scroll around with it. I like it overall. It's just plastic as far as I can tell. It's a smooth-ish plastic, but it's not as smooth as like my Zephyrus. My Zephyrus G16 trackpad is just extra smooth. I don't know, is it glass? It's hard to tell these days. It's a high enough quality trackpad. As far as I know, it's plastic, but it feels good. Feels good overall, and it's functional. It's not really something I would complain too much about, except that it's a really expensive laptop, and I hope it's glass. Maybe it is glass. Like I said, it's hard to tell, but I believe it's the same trackpad as on the Pro 7i, which is plastic. All right. Next up, ports comparison. Okay. Gonna get the ports here for you. All right. So on the left side, I'm gonna walk you through and talk you through it while I look at the tech specs. So over here on the left side, we have a USB-A 10 gigabit 3.2 always on for charging, our Ethernet port, which is downward facing, which is going to be kind of annoying, 2 Thunderbolt 5s with 80 gigabit data speed with DisplayPort 2.1 with power delivery up to 140 watts, and our 2-in-1 headphone mic combo. Now, I had a problem plugging my SSD right into this guy. It was not working consistently. I do not know why. When I plugged my SSD into the right side USB-C, all my SSD problems from my external SSD went away. So don't know what's up with that. Now, on the right side, we have our webcam shutter button. If you want your webcam to be active or deactive, you can enable or disable that. That's also the reason why Windows Hello was not working, because you have to have that flipped up into the on position if you want to be able to access Windows Hello. We have a USB-C 10 gigabit, 2 USB-A 10 gigabit, and the e-shutter button's right here. Then we have a SD card reader 4.0. This should be a UHS 2. Then on the rear of the device, we have our power plug, which is reversible. We can plug it in. There's a power indicator light as well. And then we have an HDMI 2.1 as well. So that's the ports. And look at all those, look at that heated fan exhaust. The 2 main exhausts are on the left and right sides, and just the third fan blowing over the middle section. So not as much heat coming out the middle, just mainly the left and right sides. A lot of heat fins though here. All right, very nice. All right, so that's the ports. That means that we have a total of 6 USBs, an Ethernet, a headphone port, full-size SD card reader, HDMI. I mean, what is not to love about the port selection on this laptop? It has everything that I would want in the ports. Like, that's awesome. So ports wise is like A++, 2 giant thumbs up, you know. Nice. Okay, time to look at the speakers now. Okay, so speakers. Do. Try to get rid of a few of these hairballs. All right, so you can see we're about 46.5 decibels on the low side for this room, for the ambient noise. Going to Peter Spacey Roar first. Okay, yeah, this is working right now. So you pick up sound from this mic. And let's make sure we're at max volume. Yeah. All right. Here comes Peter Spacey Roar. All right, the bass sounds amazing on this laptop. I felt like the mids were a little bit weak, but I'm also thinking it would help a lot if you cup the speakers here. Because they're downward, the speakers are kind of downward firing to left and right. So Faded Aeon Half-Life is next. Very nice speakers. Deuce Williams, La La Love You Like.
I love you like la 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 la. I love you like la 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 la. I love you like la.
So, I think these speakers are really, really good. I think that the speakers, though, I don't know, they're not very upward firing to me. They sound very left-right firing coming out the sides here. So I feel like the sound quality is not as good as what it could be if it was, more upward firing. Like the Zephyrus G16 just hits you in the face a whole lot better than these speakers. But on a table, this will still fill a room, I'd say, just as well as the G16. So that puts me in like an awkward position in terms of how I would rate these. I'm gonna go with a 9 because these are really good speakers, really bassy, and the overall volume hitting the face directly is also not as good. But I feel like for room audio, it's extra good. Like room audio might be like a 9.2, face audio might be like an 8.8 or 8.9 or something. So I'm kind of balancing that out and going for the middle ground of a 9 overall. Live unboxing part 4. Yes, this is part 4. It's quite the quite the series here now. All right, so next up, thermal analysis. All right, so we're going to load up. We are going to load up 3D Mark. And see how loud these fans are. In the different modes. Custom mode sadly seems to be messed up, so I'm not sure what the best way to do for custom. I guess custom mode will still be able to just do full speed for the fan noise test. We just don't really know. Yeah, we can't really know the full level of performance mixed in with that. Because when I was running TimeSpy, oh crap, I did the wrong one. When you're running TimeSpy, we saw only like 100 watts being used on the GPU for some reason, and it was a little bit buggy. What are the chances of Lenovo releasing a mini LED version at CES or anytime next year? I don't know. Probably low. Probably, I think. All right, custom run, graphics test 2, looping, window mode. There. And now we want Afterburner turned on. Okay, let's see if that works correctly now. Oh boy. Oh, wow. That was quite the sneezicle. All right. Yeah, so right now you can see in custom mode, custom mode, it's only doing 99 watts and 34 watts. And let's just, if I clicked over to extreme mode, it should boost us up. But I'm just trying to hear the full fan speed. Like how loud does this thing get when you're in full fan mode? And we're also going to need to raise up the rear of the laptop. All right. Full fan mode, let's see how loud it is, all right? $56.2. Oh, there we go. $56.3 decibels for max fans. Let's go to quiet mode now. All right. We're now in quiet mode. We'll let this thing get settled. So, quiet mode, we are doing 51 degrees right out the gate. Wow. That is so cool. Oh my God, that is so insanely cold. It is not heating up at all either. 57 on the CPU, 52 on the GPU, 80 watts still going through the system, 29 watts going through the CPU, 50 watts, 40 watts. So we're doing about 100 watts total, and it's still cool, and I believe it's completely quiet. I mean, our temperatures are going up just a little bit now, 54, 60. Let's see how loud it is. I mean, I don't think it added any noise to the system. I don't hear it at all. Let's go to the next fan mode. Right now we're doing 57, 62 degrees. Going to auto mode now. Auto mode. What an interesting development. It only increased the CPU wattage on auto mode and not the GPU wattage, which is what we really need to go up. Fan noise is also not increasing very much, just a little bit. Temperatures did spike up into like the 80s, 90s for a moment. I think maybe even hit 100. It was very high, very fast. 97 there. But the GPU is only at 80 watts, which is not where it should be at right now, I think. So auto mode is pretty much busted. Would not recommend using auto. Unless you're just doing a super casual game. I don't know. I suppose we can still check the fan noise out. Here we go. .0 decibels. So super quiet in auto. Now we're going to go to turbo mode. Turbo mode should be hitting us up to full max performance. Like should be hitting 170, or between 150 and 175 watts on the GPU. We're not hitting that though right now. Very interesting that we're not hitting that high. When we ran the benchmark, it was doing much more. Okay, so there, it's in the 170s now. Maybe I just needed to restart the benchmark, 175. You want to see it bouncing in between 170 and 175 usually if you're going to be hitting peak performance on a laptop GPU. We did just see 100 watt or 100 degrees on the CPU, 80 watts right now on the CPU. It's slamming the CPU a lot better, which is kind of needed in Time Spy, which is why I like this as a thermal test better than Steel Nomad, which doesn't really hit the CPU very much. This gives you a nice dual load for the CPU GPU. Overall, temps on the CPU keep bouncing up into the hundreds, and then we thermal throttle down from 100 something watts down to like 90 something watts or 80 watts. And then as our temperatures come back down, our CPU reboosts back extra high. That's very interesting behavior on the CPU wattage. Currently 70 degrees on the GPU. GPU is at a very nice overall temperature. The CPU wattage is insane. Yeah, it's really bouncing all over the place. Down to the 60s right now for the wattage. And temperatures are looking good, 70s and 80s. And then you see the CPU like ramp up to like 100 watts, and then the CPU temps ramp up. I don't even know that it really needs to pull that high of wattage right now. I don't know why it's trying to do that. So yeah, 86 watts now, and the temperature is going to go up with it, up to 87 degrees there. GPU wattage is in the 160s. Anyway, so 69 degrees on the GPU. We seem to be settling right around there. Let's see how loud the system is now. So this is turbo mode, or performance mode, I think is what they call it. Yeah, performance mode is what they call it in the Vantage software. Fifty-three point zero is the noise level. So we go from 46 to 49 to 53 to 56 on our noise levels, and pretty much only turbo mode would be the one I would use. I would never use auto, because auto only had 80 watts on the GPU for some reason. Why? Does not make any sense. And I would either use quiet if I'm using a super lightweight game and you didn't want any fan noise, or just keep it in turbo mode, and then turbo mode should work really well in general to get a nice blend of acoustics and peak performance in the same moment. All right, software analysis, and then we're getting into all the graphs, okay? So software analysis is last but not least. Software analysis is super important. How you use your computer can make or break your laptop experience. If the software does not work how you want it to, then you cannot, for example, undervolt your computer, or change the fan profile mode, or any number of other potential software problems can either enhance or hinder the experience. So let's start off with Lenovo 3D Studio. This is how you control the 3D display. We just entered 3D mode. I can see it in 3D right now, even though you cannot in the camera. This utilizes a camera to shoot the 3D pixels with a lenticular display, and the way this works is you can play 3D movies, you can convert 2D media such as photos and videos into 3D. It doesn't work that well, except for very portrait-y. Like if a person's talking to the camera and it's very isolated from the background, it works well. Like some movie scenes look good, but like busy movie scenes, like in a public space, just look terrible. So I would not use the 2D to 3D movie converter except for very specific types of content. Like, for example, 18 plus rated content might work pretty well with this, but that's probably about it. Or maybe YouTube vlog type content, it might work well with this. The 3D media player, you can download 3D movies, torrent stuff, and actually watch full 3D movies in the 3D media player if you get the right file formats. There is not much, like there's a whole library of 3D content you could use at the 3D media player. Currently can't use it because there's no video controls. So like zoom in or zoom out, or like adjust the depth or the FOV or whatever. So there's lots of potentials here with the media converter and the 3D media player, and if they can build out the software better, it'll get even better. Now, Game Engine allows you to run up to 30 games right now, depending on which games you have. You have to have the exact right version to be able to run the Game Engine. Now, when you load this thing up, you need to calibrate the IPD to be correct for your eyes. Otherwise, everything will look really funky and weird. So mine's about 62. Design Engine. Now, let me show you the Game Engine real quick. This loads up this little thing in the bottom right. This lets you load a game into 3D, which right now you can see we've got 7 games that are 3D enabled currently on the system. But there's a decent number of games. And if you want to deep dive into the whole 3D display, I did per game analysis on all the games that I have access to, which was 9 of the games. And About 4 of those games were excellent in 3D and 5 of them were terrible. So it really depends on each game how well it's implemented, but Cyberpunk, God of War Ragnarok, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and Asphalt 9 Legends were all really amazing. The other ones were really terrible. Or not really terrible. Dying Light 2 was mediocre, but the other ones had too much visual bugs for me to consider playing them. Now, going back into 3D Studio. So again, if you want a deep dive on the whole 3D display, I made a dedicated half-hour long video. It's on my channel, and just check out my most recent videos or search for the Legion 9i 3D display video, and I'm pretty sure my video is the only one on the internet right now. Design Engine allows you to use Maya, SketchUp, or Blender to view models in 3D. I could not get it to work with Blender, so this was a fail for me. 3D Model Viewer allows you to view certain 3D models. I don't know what the requirements are for which type of model files will work, but it comes with 4 default models that you can use out of the gate, and this one looks the best, I think, the Orca. It looks really, really good. And looks very 3D, very detailed, like a video game character, pretty much. So overall, I think the 3D model viewer has potential, but I don't know what the requirements are to get to import a new file into here. So that's the Lenovo Studio 3D in a brief overview. Let's talk Lenovo Vantage. This is where you're going to access like a third of your video's settings. Let me tilt this a little bit better. There we go, and maybe bring it a little closer. Cool. I assume that if you configure the fan speed, curve temps, it'll lower the temps a lot. Yeah, if you use custom mode and custom mode actually worked correctly, then yeah, you should be able to get the temperatures, especially for the CPU. If you set the power limit to a reasonable level, you should be able to get really great temperatures on the Legion 9i. But just the default turbo mode does not give you very good temperatures. All right, so under the home screen, you've got check for updates. You can download some BIOS updates or software updates inside of Lenovo Vantage. So that's the important button here. Check for updates. Then there's a device settings here where you can set your battery conservation level and whether you want it to be enabled or not. So I have it enabled to help preserve the battery long term. I recommend turning this on if you plan on keeping your laptop more than 2 years. Because this will help keep your battery health up for much, much longer. Overnight battery charging is where you can boost it up to 100% right before you take it off the wall charger, for example, if you're going to be plugging it in or unplugging it every day to use it on battery. And the Legion 9i does have pretty good battery life if you're in integrated only GPU mode. I believe Jared's Tech tested it at around 8 to 10 hours in like just basic web browsing. So very impressive. It's the best 18-inch battery life that I've heard of so far. I have not done very much battery testing on it myself. So display, there is a camera. Rocky just came back inside from outside. I have an outdoor catio. He's like hanging out there. For the display, there is nothing here that says go to Windows display settings if you want to mess with it. Interesting. For sound, speaker noise canceling, you can turn that on and off, and you can also adjust microphone settings. For input, you have your FN lock key, caps lock, widgets. You have your Vantage widgets, device details right here. Not much in here anymore. Lenovo Vantage used to be where you controlled your computer, and now it's over in Legion Space, which is this other application, which, wow, you can make it really big, and wow, it's really, really reflective. Hi, buddy. You gonna come and join me up here? Come here. Come here. Oh no. Okay, he's grabbing the camera, folks. Let's turn you on this side so it's harder for you to grab the camera. How's that? Is that good? Oh my. Okay. So the Legion Space app lets you change your performance mode from quiet, balanced, performance, or custom. And you also have your lighting themes in here. So if you want to change your lighting themes, you've got different modes that you can do. Spiral, blue, ripples, raining, audio visualizer, smooth, rainbow wave, color change, color pulse, wave, lighting, Lenovo Spectrum Sync. So there's quite a few different things. I'm sorry, buddy, you can't do this. You can't. I know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, gosh. You need to be in my arms? What do you need, buddy? Can you use the toy with him? I think that's what he needs. I think he needs some playtime. Yeah? You need some playtime? There's one outside in the kennel. I think there's also one down by the bed. He wants to be in my arms so bad. Okay, so this is where you adjust your keyboard. This is where you adjust your keyboard lighting schemes, and this is where you adjust your performance mode. You can also use FN plus Q to quick switch between these modes. And notice that when you do this, it does not go to custom. You have to go in here and select custom and click this little icon, and then you can set your own custom settings in here. And generally speaking, I believe the best performance is probably going to be all the sliders maxed out. But if it was me, I would probably set CPU temperature to 90 and then max out all the other sliders for the most part. That's just me. Now you can set a custom fan profile curve if you want to adjust the fan speeds to be exactly how you want it and with the right mixture of CPU, GPU performance. But I really like this. The problem was it never actually ran at the right power levels that I set inside of here, inside of TimeSpy. Like in our benchmarking and in several games, it defaulted to way too low of power levels. So I don't know what's going on with why it's not working. Now, Legion Space also has a game store, which you sometimes can get games on sale. And they have a library mode to combine your games from different publishers like Epic Games and, Epic Games, Battle.net, GOG, stuff like that. So you can combine all of them into one section if you want. Overall, Legion Space works generally well except for this custom mode. There's also this CPU OC which you have to enable in the BIOS, and then GPU OC which you also have to enable in the BIOS. There's a little setting here if you want to upgrade this to the maximum or not, which we just had the default settings flipped on for all of our benchmark testing. There's also hybrid mode, DGPU mode, hybrid iGPU only mode, and hybrid auto mode. Basically, hybrid iGPU mode is what I would recommend if you want to have good battery life. Switch into this mode, and then you have to restart to be able to do that, and it'll basically force the NVIDIA GPU off to ensure that your NVIDIA GPU does not wake up and drain your battery. So you pretty much have to do that if you want to get good battery life in Windows. Okay. She's such a cutie. Yeah, Rocky is super cute. Yeah, he is super cute. I have Sky too. Rocky and Sky. Sky is more chill. She pretty much never complains, except in the middle of the night sometimes when she's hungry. She's like, meow, meow. But okay, so that's the software analysis of all the important ones. We also reviewed the BIOS already. It's time to get into the graphs and compare all of the data we captured with the previous 3 live streaming sessions all graphed out. Okay, so let me go ahead and slide this camera over And let's pull that up. All right, and let's see, just make sure that we're good. Display nits brightness sustained. The Legion 9i here has got 407.8 nits brightness in our test, and that is really lackluster when you compare it against some of the highest end brightness for sustained brightnesses, like the Scar 18 and the Titan and the MSI Raider. They're all going to be over 600 sustained brightness. The XMG Neo 16 came in at the brightest at 772. All three of these are mini LED displays. Now, OLED displays, the Legion Pro 7 came in at just under 500 nits in the test, which is very impressive. Yeah, you can see some really good overall displays. Most OLEDs are around 400. The Legion 9i, it's plenty bright. Like 400 nits is plenty bright, especially since it's a glossy display. It's just not as bright. So it's not going to be as usable, especially in really bright environments like outdoors. Display contrast, the Neo again came in at the highest, 772,000 to 1. The Legion 9i is the lowest contrast display I have tested so far this year. That's pretty crazy. 870 to 1. Now it's an IPS display. It's kind of glossy. It's got a backlight to it. It still looks really good in bright content, but dark, shadowy content, you're going to probably wish you had one of these OLED or mini LEDs. But I mean, it's still playable. I mean, it's just not like deep blacks. There's no deep blacks, basically. Now, for color gamut, the Scar 6, for color gamut, the Strix G16 takes the highest of the P3 color gamut, which is what we have sorted this by. The Legion 9i is the lowest on the P3 color gamut, coming in at 93. Overall, it's still a very good display, but it's lagging behind in terms of nits, brightness, contrast, and color gamut. Average memory speed, the Legion 9i has those extra SODIMM slots. So the memory speed's not the slowest memory we've tried. The slowest memory is actually in the X3D chips that we have tested, which is in the Neo and the Strix G16. It just doesn't have as fast a memory speed, but it still performs really amazing in games because of the 3D V cache. So that's kind of like an odd, like low memory speed, but still amazing game performance. The Legion 9i has high capacity RAM, but low overall speed. And I believe this does affect certain game benchmarks that are CPU or memory sensitive, but only by a little bit. Moving on to CrystalDiskMark SSD speed. Let me make sure that the stream is doing good. Okay, cool. All right. And making sure I'm not blocking anything because it's kind of getting close here. Okay, so moving on to CrystalDiskMark SSD speeds, we've got the Legion I in second here with a very, very fast Samsung SSD averaging at 12.8. It's insane. It's just so freaking fast. The Pro 7i, very close in speed. The Raider, very close in speed. The XMG Neo 16 allows you to get your own custom SSD. So I believe they had the Samsung Pro SSDs for a Gen 5 drive in that laptop. That's why it's extra, extra fast. So it's just costs you a pretty extra penny as well. You know, now these Gen 4 drives, you're getting closer to 5,500 to 6,000 for overall speed. That's fine. You can be back there. Just don't unplug anything, please. Okay. All right. Cinebench R24. And are we blocking it? No. Okay. Cinebench R24 10-minute test. We're looking at 2243 with the XMG Neo with their water cooler getting the very best overall performance in a gaming laptop so far. The Legion 9i I think would do very, very good if we added an air cooler underneath it to improve. Hey buddy, don't click my mouse, please. Please. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Okay. Yeah, you can lay down right here. Just lay down right there. Now fall asleep. Yeah, fall asleep. Okay. All right, Cinebench R24 10-minute test, 2243 for the XMG Neo 16. Absolutely insane performance. Again, it has a water cooler, so that really helps boost the performance. We also had 135 for the single core, which is the highest single core performance we've seen, even beating out the 285HX, which is partially, largely at least going to be based on the Silicon Lottery. And interestingly enough, the Intel is going to be the fastest multi-core chip. You can see the HX3D version with the water cooler gets 2164, so it's a little bit slower than the Intel, at least in Cinebench R24. But I mean, this is all so comparable. It's like less than 10% difference in performance. So I really wouldn't sweat it in terms of the overall performance level. It's going to make a very minor difference in your general day-to-day performance and even in multi-core rendering. And as you can see, the thinner laptops here with less cores and threads did not do as well. One standout that's very impressive is the Asus Flow Z13 with that 16-core, 32-thread Ryzen 395 Max Plus at 1586, and it still weighs like less than 3 pounds. It's a tablet. It's crazy performance in a tablet. Blender combined benchmark score. This is the best one we've registered so far. Very GPU-bound benchmark test, so 8118. And the Legion 9i is exceptionally good when it comes to benchmark-bound, and the Legion 9i is exceptionally good when it comes to GPU-bound benchmarks, because I believe the Legion 9i and the Pro 7i use slightly more wattage than 175 when boosting. It also, we also did this benchmark with a slight GPU overclock. And I mean, I think a lot of these other ones also had a GPU overclock applied to them. But still, like basically, I think Lenovo is extra overclocking by like 5% approximately. So you get a nice little performance boost. Now in TimeSpy, we saw the same type of behavior, 26,196 for the TimeSpy score, which outperformed the Neo 16 5090 at 23.6, which I feel like this is underperforming. I don't know, especially when you compare the 5080 almost matching the XMG Neo with a 5090. And again, that's, like I said, Lenovo's probably over-tuning those GPUs just a little bit for extra performance. Yeah, so very, very good synthetic tests. And we saw very good gaming performance, as you'll see later, in GPU-bound games. The Legion 9i did exceptionally well. Laptop weight, the Legion 9i, very, very heavy. And I think we weighed in a little bit heavier than 3.5 when we did it today. So what was it? Was it 3.7? I think we may have the heaviest laptop so far. This is based on the tech specs weight rather than the actual weighed-in weight. And so, yeah, that's very, very heavy laptop, the Legion 9i. Now, Steel Nomad, we again saw exceptionally good 5090 performance, 6465 versus 6222. And that's a nice bump up over the 5080, as well as the other 5090 on this chart. Yeah, okay. And looking at how well this scales, we're looking at 3 times the performance of a 5060 and about not quite 2 times the performance of a 3070 Ti, a 5070 Ti on a lower power chassis. So very similar to double the performance on the thin and light 5070 Ti's though. But nice performance gains over the 5080, almost, what is that, about a 20% performance gain approximately over a 5080 versus a 5090, at least in Steel Nomad. Steel Nomad points per kilogram. The Legion 9i actually does pretty well here because it has exceptionally high points for its overall score, and it also weighs a lot. So at least you're getting the extra performance for carrying that extra weight around with you. The G14 topping out the chart because it's such a lightweight machine, with a 3070 Ti still putting up great performance numbers. Total volume, don't think we added the Legion 9i in here. We're missing that one in there for right now. Baldur's Gate 3 benchmark is a very CPU and memory sensitive type of game. And you can see the Legion 9i actually almost gets beat by the Legion Pro 7i with a 5080. So the 5090 is just matching that performance with slightly better 1% lows. And the HX3D, because it's kind of a CPU sensitive game, puts up a lot more performance than the XMG Neo 16 with that 5090, 311 FPS versus 275. That said, we're doing, crazy FPS numbers. It's a pretty slow-paced AAA game. You're going to be super happy with that overall performance. Counter-Strike 2, the HX3D, again takes the cake here. It's over 700 frames per second in QHD+. The Legion 9i doing 578 FPS, despite having that slower RAM. So very impressive overall performance. Still beating out some of these other 5080s. And so that's good to see that the 5090 is helping boost the performance. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously exceptionally good performance. And this would be clear, this in my opinion is clear evidence that you could use this is clear evidence that that 440 hertz screen will be able to be used when you switch this laptop into that Full HD Plus super high refresh rate mode, which does look quite good visually. Cyberpunk 2077, QHD Plus Ultra, ray tracing on Ultra, DLSS quality with 2x frame gen, the Legion 9i coming in second, again that HX3D chip, and potentially that RAM speed helping boost the overall average FPS, 145 versus 138. Cyberpunk is definitely CPU sensitive, and the HX3D chip can help get you some extra FPS in this game. God of War 143, we topped out the chart here. We don't have the XMG Neo test in this example, so I'm not sure. I'd be interested to know how much the XMG Neo 16 got in this test, but 143 beats out all the other 5080s by a fair margin, and you get some nice 1% low performance again at 116. God of War being a very GPU-bound game, so it's a very good, kind of very similar test result to something like Steel Nomad. Starfield had some excellent performance, but we are in a CPU-bound city scenario, so the XMG Neo with the HX3D does outperform it by about 10 FPS. 1% lows were very good on the Legion 9i at 120 versus 154. So the highest 1% low performance there, which is great to see. But average FPS, the HX3D still takes the cake. And some nice performance increases over the 5080 here as well. Nice. Let's see here. Do we have the Legion Pro 7i? It looks like we didn't test the Pro 7i in this game. But yeah, very good performance overall. XMG Neo 16 again wins out in Expedition 33 at 81 FPS, 64 for the 1% low, 5 additional FPS extra on that HX3D. This was a very complicated NPC heavy area, so out in the open world where it's less CPU bound, you might see a little bit of a difference in results in this performance, but I always try to test worst case scenarios. Overall, the Legion 9i, very, very playable. No frame gen here. When you flip frame gen on, you get a nice boost to FPS. We also tested this in, we tested all the games in 4K plus, QHD plus, and some of the games even in Full HD plus, so you can get some example data. And we have that for you here at the end of the benchmark. We have all of that data compiled. Hogwarts Legacy benchmark, the Legion 9i coming in behind the RTX 5080 and the MSI Raider, which is very interesting to see. The Hogwarts Legacy benchmark, again, is in Hogsmeade, which is a worst case scenario. Tons of NPCs and buildings everywhere. Very complex scene to render. And so this is where the slower memory comes into play, providing worse 1% lows and a worse overall average FPS as well, even when compared to a 5080. So yeah, and that Intel 285HX providing the best 1% lows in this game so far as well. It's kind of interesting to see. But still, the HX3D gives us the best average FPS at 214. So some really nice performance numbers for the HX3D still. And as you'll see, one of the biggest cons to the Legion 9i is that it just doesn't come with the HX3D as an option to even buy if you want. So Shadow of the Tomb Raider, gonna be a pretty dang Shadow of the Tomb Raider is gonna be a very GPU-bound game test, 153, beating out the 5090 in the XMG Neo, allowing that Legion 9i extra GPU power to shine. Very nice 1% lows as well for the Shadow of the Tomb Raider, though we can't really do 1% lows in this game, so I would say ignore these 1% lows. I don't know how these are supposedly being calculated. Probably accidentally included from the previous test.